What kind of crazy nonsense is this now? I immediately recoiled from the desk, but nothing changed.
Congratulations on your appointment as the new mascot of Flower Golden Resort.
The message didn't change, and in the ruined manager's office of Flower Golden Resort, I was the only one there, wearing a suit that made me look like a monster. Don't tell me. Did they judge my disguised self as a ghost story resident and just straight up hired me as a mascot for Cheerful Theme Park? This place was always meant for beings that aren't human anyway. Even if it's a ghost story, there's usually some internal logic. Assigning me as the mascot out of nowhere, as if I were being targeted, feels odd. There must be some reason. I recalled what I'd done the last time I entered this theme park, the already ruined Yellow Zone. I was the one who activated the gate to that place. So, strictly speaking, I had reopened this resort. This is driving me nuts. So I became the mascot, me? I hurriedly checked my appearance, but it was still that combat suit with the monstrous look. I inspected the desk again, where the card with the message had been placed. Next to the card was an ink bottle, and an old-fashioned quill pen stuck into it. Did they use this pen to write the congratulatory message? Thinking of the various ghost story gimmicks, I sat in front of the desk. Maybe if I politely wrote something like, "I respectfully decline" on the document with that pen, I could get out of this situation. But the moment I grabbed the pen, my hand started moving on its own, writing a message.
Requirements to begin resort operations.
My hand kept scribbling. The sentences continued. The employment contracts should be in the desk drawer. And as it happens, there are visitors outside right now. If any of them are suitable, why not politely scout them? It was utter madness. But then,
It's not even a real resort, is it?
voices came from outside the door. A chill ran down my spine as I looked at the closed door. The employees from Daydream Inc. who had drawn the yellow piece with me had ended up here, too. I immediately got up and opened the door. As soon as the door opened and our eyes met, the employees started and stiffened, frozen in place. The only reason they didn't scream must have been their experience with explorations into the darkness. The two employees, eyes wide with tension and fear behind their masks, hesitantly backed up against the wall and looked up at me. At least Jang Howon's face had turned pale, but he didn't press himself against the wall as obviously. Maybe Director Ho had told him who I was. Either way, my head throbbed. Inside the theme park, I couldn't get too far away from these people. Last time, the people who drew the same piece were also transported nearby. If you went further than a set distance, a rope would appear, put a noose around your neck, and you'd be strangled. For now, we have to stick together. And the escape method was obvious. Be the first team to ride all 3 fantasy attractions with your teammates and win spectacular prizes. Just ride 3 attractions and get a stamp from the mascot. The problem was, it seemed the mascot was me.
It doesn't look like there are any attractions to ride here. Should we try moving to another area to ride something?
I looked back at Jang Ha-woon. For some reason, the other employees let out a sharp breath. I just nodded slowly, and Jang Ha-woon, face still pale, nodded back. The place we'd been was like a corner of the lobby attached to the largest building. We walked straight through the gloomy ruins of the resort, heading outdoors toward the gate. I took the lead, toward the very gate I'd escaped from last time.
You know the way, don't you?
Luckily, the gate I'd used last time was still in operation. The lights were flickering and looked unstable, but at least part of the gate was lit, just as I'd left it. And from the resort, just an entrance ticket for 3 attractions was enough to enter the theme park. I stopped in front of the gate.
The theme park mascots cannot leave their own zone.
Cold sweat ran down my back. An overwhelming pressure pinned down my limbs. I can't interfere with other zones. That would be a horrific violation threatening my very existence. I can't. My bizarre identity, now defined as the mascot, was strangling me. But if I can't leave this place, I can't ride any attractions. There are no attractions in this ruined golden resort. I looked at the gate that could lead to Blue Dream Water Park. Cold sweat trickled down my back. Even if I died and became a corpse, I don't think it would work. Of course, just imagining my corpse being dragged around by the others and going on rides in the Blue Zone gave me chills up to my scalp. But this isn't just a matter of whether I'm willing to accept such a miserable death. I can't even be sure you can drag a dead mascot into another zone. No, I have no idea what would even happen in this zone if the mascot died. Not for those people either. I looked at the company employees. The Harvest Mouse masked employee's mouth was covered by the Ladybug masked employee to keep him from screaming. Ignoring the sight with polite indifference, I blocked the path in front of the gate, and then pointed in one direction with my finger. Back to the room we started in.
Are you not supposed to leave? Do we have to go back?
If we go back, is there another way?
So we just have to follow you, right? Is that it?
The Ladybug masked employee, holding back the Harvest Mouse masked one, looked at me as they awkwardly shuffled backward. Still, I was relieved they listened. Suppressing a sigh, I headed back inside the building where we'd regained consciousness, and opened the office door I'd come out of. I stopped Jang Haewoon, who was about to follow me in, and pointed at the worn-out door sign. No matter how I thought about it, letting them in was a bad idea. I slammed the door on purpose and went inside, shutting my eyes tight. This is seriously driving me insane. For a moment, I even thought, what if I just take off this suit and get judged as human again? Maybe I'd lose my mascot qualifications. But on the other hand, being modified by the ghost story to fit the role could lead to a truly horrific ending. No, in creepypastas, that's the more standard outcome. In the end, judging from the hints so far, the only way for the group who drew the yellow piece to escape from Cheerful Theme Park is this: to get the resort operating and make it possible to use 3 attractions. And what's needed is... I went back to the desk and looked at the document card.
Requirements to begin resort operations.
I opened the desk drawer. Inside were employment contracts, just as the document had said.
I accept my employment at the Flower Golden Resort with gratitude and joy, and pledge my sincerity and my existence to the operation of a happy and joyful theme park.
A chilling document, like something for illegal test subjects. No way am I letting it end. I immediately grabbed the pen and edited the contract.
I accept my employment at the Flower Golden Resort with deep gratitude and joy, and pledge my sincerity and my existence to the operation of a happy and joyful theme park. The employee may, at any time, safely return home if they wish to resign, and may refuse any action that threatens their safety.
I erased as much as possible of the ambiguous parts that could be interpreted in multiple ways. Writing over the sentence is not allowed. The pen refused. I could barely manage to cross out and erase lines, and squeezed in some added provisions in small letters in a blank space. Then, holding the completed contract, the original document card, and the quill pen, I went back outside. The staff, huddled in the hallway on high alert and whispering to each other, turned to look at me. Only Jang Haewoon stood a bit apart, as if he hadn't been included by the others, waiting quietly. I held out the employment contract to them. As if confirming something horrific, the employees stared at the contract with trembling eyes, then immediately froze in horror. Because I was telling them to get hired by the theme park.
You want us to sign this?
Of course, signing an employment contract in a ghost story leads to a horrible disappearance more than half the time. Those who knew that had a different look in their eyes. The eyes of experienced people searching for a way out.
I already have a job, so it's difficult to sign something right away. Could I have a moment to think about it?
So, given time, they'd try to find a way to escape, or prepare some gear to temporarily overpower me the moment I let my guard down. If they're veterans in the field exploration team, they're bound to have at least one life-saving trick hidden. So I couldn't just wait for them. I silently stared at the person who spoke first, and then I stopped breathing. Instead of being drawn in with my breath, black smoke thickened around my suit. Smoke that wouldn't disperse began to flow heavily beneath the staff members' feet and around their waist. If you don't sign, something will happen. That was made clear to all 5 senses. So clear that, trying to bide time, they'd realize they might die right now. I lowered my face and looked down at the Harvest Mouse employee. Completely enveloped in black smoke and the dim glow of yellow lanterns, the staff member's hand shook. In the end, the Harvest Mouse employee, tears streaming down his face, reached out to the paper and, with trembling hands, took the pen I held out and signed in the employee section. Please, don't write your real name. If they tried to, I was going to snatch it back and nudge him to write a nickname. But luckily, Harvest Mouse was what was written. I immediately inhaled and drew back the black smoke. The Harvest Mouse employee sat down right there and pressed back against the wall, bowing her head to me. And while all this was going on, the Ladybug employee, whose eyes were quivering as he watched, quietly started backing away, then shoved Jang Hee-woon and bolted down the hallway, trying to escape in a panic. As the Ladybug employee ran, a rope wrapped around his neck and he collapsed. He tried to break away from the yellow group, so the yellow line strangled her neck. As I thought, I was still recognized as a member of the yellow group. The rules of entry through the board game were still in effect. I suppressed a sigh and walked over to them. Fortunately, instead of running away again, the staff member knelt in the hallway.
Sorry. I just thought I saw something over there. If it was a trespasser, I was gonna chase them out. Haha.
I silently held out the employment contract again. The Ladybug employee swallowed, then, eyes squeezed tightly shut, signed the document. Jang Hee-woon glanced up at my face for a moment, then hurriedly lowered his head and signed. In this way, I got signatures on all 3 employment contracts. Employer. It was time to sign my name. I chose the most appropriate alias. The employment contracts burst into flames and turned to ash, and the ashes stuck to the foreheads of all 3 people. Now, on the foreheads of the Daydream Inc. employees, something like an ornate cursive letter G was engraved. I looked at the first document I'd brought from the room. As soon as I lifted the pen above it,
Requirements to begin resort operations. Employees, 3 complete.
the area began to tremble. The decrepit ruins we had been in collapsed, and something new emerged. A glittering golden light, a splendid and cozy corridor surrounded on all sides by bright and beautiful wood and gold decorations. Elegant, small chandelier-style lights swayed from the ceiling, and at the end of the corridor, a grand and dazzling lobby appeared. A space where golden staircases like in a cartoon, magenta velvet, and sparkling yellow crystal ornaments bloomed like flowers.
Flower Golden Resort.
The sign of Flower Golden Resort appeared in elegant script, revealing the glorious resort of cheerful theme park. Unfortunately, the guests were not suitable candidates, but I pitied these frail lower life forms and hired them. They may be unqualified to work as full-time staff at the Flower Golden Resort, but I expect them to do their best. The pen moved on its own. The document updated itself.
With something being insufficient, it was decided to begin temporary operation of the lobby and basic accommodations. May many guests find peaceful rest.
And for the guests who come seeking rest, I resolved to show a friendly and cheerful appearance befitting a theme park. The moment that sentence was recorded, something warm, soft, and suffocating began to wrap around me over my suit. With its soft fur, it naturally enveloped my entire body and formed a thick figure as if it were my own skin. Before I knew it, I saw my reflection in the clean, shiny corridor window. There stood the mascot, with branch-like horns, a cat-like thing, stylized into a deformed, toy-like form, the new mascot suit of cheerful theme park. But it wasn't only me who was changing. The employees' bodies began to twist and transform, taking on the standard mascot form. Wait a minute, gritting my teeth. I grabbed the pen with my stubby mascot paw and wrote on the document. However, for regular staff, wearing uniforms instead of mascot suits would better match the luxury of the resort. The transformation stopped. Instead, the employees' suits changed, becoming formal uniforms adorned with golden bowties. I withdrew my sweat-soaked hand. It seemed I could write things, as long as it didn't go against the operation of the resort. And I would be fine. My body hadn't actually turned into a mascot. I was just wearing the mascot costume. I took a deep breath and waddled out to the lobby. Horribly, there were already mascots with my appearance waiting there. Bellboys, cleaning staff, security, front desk. All kinds of uniforms. No, it was all me, standing there. I would manage the resort as the mascot. I could do anything and be anything, as long as it was for the operation of the resort. Just as the text said, I could know whatever I wanted about what I was doing. My stomach churned. This didn't feel like a human sensation. But I had to keep working. There was no other way right now. I approached the largest front desk in the lobby, avoiding eye contact with the mascot standing at the reception. I scanned the desk. There was a golden stamp. No matter how I looked at it, it seemed to be a stamp for confirming attraction usage. It looked like at the resort you could get a stamp by using subsidiary facilities. I immediately tried to pick up the stamp and stamp the other people's wristbands. but a strong resistance stopped my hand.
You absolutely cannot dare to stamp the count for guests who haven't enjoyed an attraction yet. That would violate the operation rules.
My breath got stuck in my throat. Instead, I handed them the guest book. The employees looked disoriented, clearly overwhelmed by a situation far outside the manual, but eventually wrote their nicknames in the guest book after seeing the stamp, except for the Ladybug employee. I stamped the guest book entries for Jang Hawoon and the Harvest Mouse employee.
Cheerful Fantasyland ride ticket something. Cheerful Fantasyland ride ticket something.
The atmosphere brightened a little. The Ladybug employee glanced over here with a look of mild regret, but didn't say anything for now. I'll set things up so he can come forward on his own later. For now, if he saw any chance to escape or incapacitate me, he'd surely take it. So dragging this out was dangerous. I'm not an actual security team member, and I don't possess any overwhelming superhuman power. If I slip up, this could fall apart and end in death. I had to keep this group together as stably as possible. If we just stay here for 3 nights, would that count as the 3 attractions? It said 3 attractions. Maybe if we changed room types each night? Wondering if there was a hint, I lifted the pen over the document. I should assign accommodations to the staff. And since they're guests today, let's use the ride tickets to let them stay in a fabulous suite. And the official opening is only after sunset. I'm quite looking forward to it. I stared blankly at the pen. Reopening the resort meant accepting guests. And the guests of this theme park were originally. After sunset, non-human entities would flood in here. I had to get out before that happened. I needed to add attractions immediately. I had to open up more areas of the resort and find new attractions.
A new page appeared in the document and words began to write themselves. Requirements to expand resort facilities.
Where am I supposed to get 3 more? Anyone in the other zones, unless they're crazy, will just finish the rides at Blue Dream Water Park and escape. There's no reason for anyone to come here. I was anxiously biting my tongue when, if I started business as is, there was no telling what the guests would do. That would be a ghost story all on its own. Then let's establish the resort's rules of use before the official opening. As the mascot of this place, I must wholeheartedly decide what kind of place the Flower Golden Resort should be. Just as the red mascot pursues endless stimulation and slaughter. Just as the blue mascot values kindness and honor. My own mascot values. I immediately took up the pen.
Flower Golden Resort rules of use. 1. Our resort is a dream destination for guests with courtesy and class. Please be sure to observe resort manners and etiquette. No troublemakers allowed.
The staff member wearing the ladybug mask was hiding in the restroom next to the resort lobby, gasping for breath as he wiped the sweat from beneath his neck. His vision was spinning.
And what the hell is all this? If this was a new darkness with no manual, he could have at least mentally prepared himself, but everything happening now was so abrupt that he couldn't keep up. I definitely entered as a guest. That damned security team monster became the mascot and then dragged them into the ghost story. And soon, this cheerful theme park resort zone would start its operations.
The ladybug employee swallowed hard.
Isn't there some way to sneak out? Steal the stamp and stamp the pass, then run for the gate. If I could just deal with the choking rope.
The bathroom door opened and someone entered. 2 field exploration team staff in resort uniforms.
There you are! Come out and get this!
The Harvest Mouse staff member waved a piece of paper. After being utterly terrified by that security team monster, they'd changed somehow after the monster had actually stamped their ride ticket. Even when told to wait and freshen up before the opening, they'd really obeyed. It was as if, thinking maybe escape really was possible this way, they'd given up on resisting. While trying to sneer at their slave mentality, the Ladybug employee managed to reach out and take the paper.
Flower Golden Resort Work Regulations. Welcome to our newly refurbished Dream Rest Space, our luxurious and cozy resort, where you will work as one family. Before today's work begins, please make sure to read and understand the following items.
These are the guidelines for work, stacked in the staff room. Assistant manager?
The Ladybug employee gulped and looked down at the document.
1. Please observe your assigned work hours. 2. Do not leave your post during work without permission. 3. In case of emergency, politely inform the mascot. The mascot will take care of everything. 4. During breaks, you may move freely within the resort, but please try to keep your uniform bow tie with you. In case of emergency, it will serve as your identification. 5. The mascot's office is a restricted area. However, for exit interviews, you may enter after knocking politely. Unless you are personally invited by the mascot, never enter otherwise. 6. All guest requests must be fulfilled, and if necessary, please split open your skin and offer up your organs as complimentary service. 7. Do not attack the mascot. All damages will be charged as overtime. Regulations may be revised or added without prior notice. Employees are strongly encouraged to review the rules at all times to prevent improper responses or handling.
Chilling, bizarre expressions. A ghost story written in the form of regulations. Cold sweat trickled down the Ladybug employee's back. He reluctantly grabbed the document with a trembling hand. As a supervisor managing similar darknesses in his own squad, he knew that there was a hint in here somewhere. But there were still too many uncertainties, as always with darknesses. So
I'll have to make someone else break the rules and see what happens.
he needed to check that. Concealing a calculating look, the employee glanced at the others. Then, with a suggestive tone, spoke.
So, what do you all think? I mean, these rules just popped up out of nowhere, right? Do you think it's just that security team mascot improvising on the spot?
His voice lowered further.
Do you get the feeling that guy's contaminated too, just making stuff up as he goes?
Egging them on, the staff member continued.
Hey, you're Mr. Bison, right? What do you think about the mascot's condition?
Jang Hee-woon, wearing a bison mask, quietly lowered his head as he read the work regulations.
Well, how should I put it? I don't think he's a bad person.
Has this reject already been contaminated? The two employees exchanged glances for a moment, thinking that if need be, they could use this creepy branch office staff as bait.
This is my second time visiting this place. Even before, the theme park's zones were divided between scary mascots and kind mascots. In other explorations recorded in the manual, it seemed like the mascots pursued various, values as well.
So you're saying that one's kind?
Not exactly kind, but if you think about a mascot like Magic Bunny,
Recalling that time, Jang Hee-woon's face turned pale and he gagged. The staff in the Ladybug mask silently sneered at him.
Typical of a round-off team alum.
Surviving and even getting promoted with that attitude must mean he was just lucky.
anyway, I think it's rather considerate to even provide us with rules.
Look at that pointless optimism. He'll probably make a mistake soon, so I can observe the result. Concealing such gruesome calculations, the Ladybug employee left the restroom for now. In that case, he should get his own stamp too. May as well take what he could. If he had to spend the night in this darkness, staying here seemed like it would give him the highest chance of survival. He carefully approached the mascot standing motionless at the front desk. Since it was a basic mascot costume with no accessories, this was probably the real security team monster transformed. Bowing as politely as possible, he spoke. Acting arrogant in a ghost story is basically foreshadowing your own death.
If it's all right with you, I'd like to use this ride ticket to stay at the resort tonight as well.
The round black eyes of the yellow mascot stared at him silently. Strangely, the yellow light above that black gas lamp-like face came to mind.
Cheerful fantasy land ride ticket something unknown.
The mascot permitted him to write his work name in the guest register and stamped it. The Ladybug employee snapped his head up in surprise. The mouth of the theme park mascot, creepy in its cuteness, did not move. It was a mascot suit, after all. But a voice echoed through the lobby, and the monster began to assign staff to positions. Jang Hee-woon was assigned as the assistant front desk attendant and stood beside the counter, while the Harvest Mouse employee, assigned as a cleaner, went to the back of the lobby. The Ladybug gulped and quickly looked around. Then the remaining position was... The mascot approached him. No way. That looked like the most dangerous post.
I'm better with my head than my strength. If I could be assigned to a different position, I think I'd be able to demonstrate my abilities better.
What he was aiming for was Jang Hee-woon's position. It makes sense for me to take the position with a higher chance of survival, rather than the one who gags at the sight of gore. Pretending not to be obvious, the Ladybug employee sneaked a glance at the front desk spot where Jang Hee-woon was. The mascot silently stared at him, and then began to guide him. To the spot he'd been eyeing. The front desk. Success! He'd gotten the spot. The ladybug's heart pounded as if it would burst. The position he was assigned to was the desk next to the front, the one taking room service requests by phone. Room service, a ghost story. Just the thought of the kinds of requests that might come in was horrifying. The ladybug employee clenched his teeth. But he couldn't ask the mascot for another reassignment. Becoming the first to stubbornly demand something meant there was a 50% chance he'd end up dead. Meanwhile, the mascot moved away and walked off. The mascot stood at the reception desk, the position for directly receiving and checking in guests. The golden sun was setting outside the window. When the mascot at the desk looked at the entryway, the standard issue mascot standing there reached for the glass doors. The mascots all bow in unison toward the open doors. The Flower Golden Resort was now officially open for business. I realized something. Being able to communicate in words is truly precious. Even if those words are in that bizarre mascot-style yellow speech. I never thought I'd say this myself. At least the atmosphere is set. Suppressing a sigh, I squeezed my eyes shut inside the mascot suit, then opened them. I looked over at the employees. I've assigned everyone to the posts where they can get by with the least effort, while shifting as much responsibility as possible. They must have learned the work rules well. I fought with the pen to write them. I could only hope that they'd use their heads and work sensibly. If they worked too hard, though, they could end up subjected to something outrageous by a ghost or monster. But if they slacked off enough to be noticed, I have no idea how the resort will react. I swallowed and looked at the wide-open resort doors, and at the newly added clause in the document.
Requirements to expand resort facilities. Satisfied guests, 30.
Either way, it had to be operated. No matter what, I need to fill 30 satisfied guests to open the next area. Even if I somehow trick or force the 3 employees, there's no way around the second requirement. For now, I have to endure. Through the open doors of the resort, guests finally begin to enter. They were carrying souvenirs from other parts of the theme park. I tried not to imagine what those souvenirs might be made from. As soon as I recognized them as official guests of this wonderful resort, my heart inside the mascot suit started pounding. I desperately suppressed the feeling and greeted the first arriving guests.